This is because you left them with a great big black hole?
So this is a complete myth, this £22 billion black hole, Kay. About half of it, in fact, is the conscious choice that the Labour government took to bring in these pay increases, 22% for junior doctors over 2 years, 14% for train drivers, above inflationary increases elsewhere. And what we're seeing here with the winter fuel payment is a conscious choice that the government took to increase wages without any strings attached for its trade union paymasters, at the same time as saving money on the backs of millions of vulnerable and poor pensioners. This is really going to hit pensioners.
But why should millionaire pensioners get an allowance?
Well, it's not, unfortunately, possible with the way that the system works to identify millionaire pensioners, because if you could, you might do it. The reality is that the step that this government has taken will mean, for example, that 2/3 of pensioners who are living below the poverty line will have their winter fuel payment removed from them. And that is not right. That is a conscious political choice. And as I say, they've taken a political choice to give in very quickly to their trade union paymasters, and they've also taken this rushed choice without proper consultation or impact assessments to railroad or attempt to railroad through this measure on the backs of poorer pensioners. It's not right.
Would you not have had to make similar decisions to balance the books if you'd won?
We had no plans and would never have done what this government has done. And indeed, what the government did during the run-up to the general election is say that they had no plans to do this either, actually. So they've gone back on their word that they gave to pensioners during the general election. What we did was we presented a fully costed manifesto within which, for example, my department was delivering over £12 billion of savings from the welfare budget due to the fundamental welfare reforms that we were bringing in. Labour have said nothing about welfare reform, so they seem to be quite prepared.
Not yet.
Well,
they've got a budget in October.
Well, they've had a general election, they had a manifesto, they've now been in government. It hasn't stopped them turning on our pensioners. They did that pretty quickly. And you would think on something as significant as welfare reform and getting that budget under control, which is what we were doing, which is what I was doing in government, would be a priority for this government. But it appears not. Their priority has been to take money from some of the most vulnerable people.
They've also had to release 1,700 prisoners early because you weren't dealing with prison overcrowding properly.
So, look, they are in government. They are in the situation where they are needing to handle that. I think the problem that we're seeing is the manner in which it is being done. So we will have 1,700 people released today. There is not a clear understanding that everybody, for example, who has previously been impacted by some of the criminality and otherwise of those that have been locked up have been informed that those people are being released, and I think that's a major issue. It's not clear that all those prisoners being released will actually have appropriate accommodation to go to.
True.
And what we know is that where people don't go into appropriate accommodation, the chances of reoffending goes up through the roof.
But what's also true is that this has happened because you were not dealing with prisoner overcrowding properly.
Well, we brought in tougher sentences, Kay, which of course increased the prison population. We also had COVID, which created backlogs, which were then released further down the line. So nobody is suggesting that there wasn't pressure within the prison system, but it is how you deal with it. And I don't think it's unreasonable for the public to expect.
So you don't think releasing prisoners is a good idea?
This is the decision the government has taken, and I think if they decided to take that decision, then they need to do it in the right way and make sure that the public is protected, and in particular, that people who have suffered at the hands of some of those that are being released are properly notified in advance so they can take whatever measures they need to feel safe and secure. And that is just not happening, and that is not right.
Because I'm sure you're not criticising the government for releasing 1,700 prisoners, because, of course, you released 10,000 prisoners to ease the capacity in prisons.
As I say, that there are different ways that one can address these kind of problems. And bear in mind, of course, that we did have a very clear plan for building new prisons and increasing capacity.
And as 14 years.
Well, as I say, the kind of pressures that we're seeing in the system have to be dealt with, and we accept that.
Why didn't you deal with it before now?
I've explained how we had the COVID issue and how we had greater sentencing and so on. But the reality is,
stop you building prisons.
What matters now.
It wouldn't stop you building prisons.
Well, what matters now is the way in which this government actually acts. And as I say,
it's
unsatisfactory.
How did COVID stop you building prisons?
Well, no, but COVID did have an impact on actually the way in which the peaks and troughs of the demand on the prison system then panned out going forward. There was pent-up demand, and there was also the increased sentences that we quite rightly brought in as a government
building prisons
for those
then.
that commit the most serious offences.
Yeah, you were already in power for 10 years by the time COVID came along.
Yeah,
you could have built prisons before then.
But the point, Kay, is whoever,
that's the point.
Whoever faces this situation, the real question that matters is how do you deal with it? And what I'm saying
building prisons.
what I'm saying with the situation that we have at the moment, with this pressure within the system, what I'm concerned about is the fact the government doesn't seem to have given proper consideration to accommodation for prisoners when they're released.
Okay.
And where that's not adequate, that will drive further offending, and indeed notifying people who have been affected by those prisoners in the past that release is happening. Now, those are things that they need to get a grip of.
How's your leadership campaign going?
Well, I'm quietly confident. We've got the second ballot today. I'm taking nothing for granted. I think what I've had to offer, Kay, is that I didn't go into Parliament until I was 48 years old. Most people say they look for real life experience in their politicians. I built businesses from the ground up, leading teams, setting objectives, climbing those proverbial mountains, both here and in the United States. And I think I can bring the leadership that my party really strongly needs at this particular moment.
Fabulous pitch. A poll out yesterday voted you the least likely to make a good Prime Minister.
I don't know. I think we were fairly closely bunched. I don't think any of us.
Still at the bottom.
I don't think any of us did brilliantly in that particular poll. Look, the only poll that's going to matter ultimately is the general election in 4 or 5 years' time. And what that is going to need is somebody that can lead our party over months and over years to get the right policy platform together that we can unite around, to reach out to those voters that we lost to Reform, but equally not to forget, Kay, those at the centre, those that we lost to Labour and the Liberal Democrats, and to reform our party campaigning machine so that we are ready to win in those local elections.
How true is it that Robert Jenrick, or Bobby J, I believe, as some of his supporters call him, weirdly, has lent you votes?
Oh, no, there's no vote lending going. This is a very tight contest. This is a contest in which there are 121 MPs, and the margin between coming first, second, third, and fourth is 2 or 3 votes, typically. In fact, I was 1 vote behind the next candidate up from me, just 1 vote, and I was just 2 votes ahead of Priti Patel. And if you think under those circumstances, any campaign team is going to start lending out votes, that is for the birds.
Well, the suggestion is that she would have knocked you out if you hadn't lent some votes, or he'd lent you some votes, Robert Jenrick.
But no, that's absolutely inconceivable.
Okay.
I've had no discussions between any of the teams that I'm aware of around that. This is a contest about the future, the leadership of our party. I set out for you some of the strengths that I have.
Yeah.
That's what people are voting on.
If not you, then who?
Well, I'm not going to speculate as to the outcome. I am in this to win it. I believe that I am the candidate best placed to unite our party and to take us back into political contention. And it's so important, not just for the Conservative Party, it's important for the country that we get back to a situation where we're about opportunity and aspiration and growth and all the things that we want to do as a society. There's a lot of work to be done, and it needs leadership to deliver that. And I believe I am the person to provide that leadership.
You've got a new suit on.
It's a week or so old. Am I allowed to buy new clothes, Kate?
And a new tie as well, I think.
Oh, well, there we are.
I haven't seen it before. It's good to see you. Good luck
Very
today.
nice to see you too.
Thank you.